It's kind of a crappy day today, and I thought it would be a good day to make some soup broth, bone broth, I guess if you could say. So today I'm going to be making some chicken broth, and I thought that I would show you how I do it myself instead of paying $2, $3, $4, $6, however much bone broth is at the store these days, and making it basically from scraps and making it virtually free. So I'm going to teach you how I do mine today. Feel free to follow along and try it yourself. Today we're going to be using my handy dandy Instant Pot. If you've never used one but you have one, this would be a really good way to start. And I promise it's not scary. So let's get started. All right, first things first, Instant Pot is needed. For my beginners out there, opening just is turning like this and lifting the top off. So from here, this insert here comes out. And let's move this aside for now. So we have our insert. This is where all of your food is going to go into. I make my chicken broth from scraps. So what I mean by that is bone broth takes bones, right? So I take any rotisserie chicken that I buy and I put the bones in a freezer bag. It's fine if it has a little bit of like freezer burn stuff, no worries at all. This is going to go straight into your pot. All right, so stick that in there. You might have to kind of dribble it out if it's been frozen for a hot minute, like so. Then I take my scraps bag. So what I do is whenever I am peeling carrots, all the peels go in a scrap bag. Any onion peel, onion ends, those go into my scrap bag. Ends of celery root, ends of, or just extra pieces of onion, whatever the case may be, any kind of vegetables that would be in a soup broth. Typically it's celery, carrot, and onion. Those are the most common, but you can also throw some other ones in here if you have some ends. So it's basically just repurposing pieces that you would end up composting or I guess throwing in the trash, which is for a lot of us. So I just keep this bag in my freezer. I will throw in the carrot shreds or peels, so you can see that there. I have some onion pieces, a little bit of everything, and just keep it in my freezer. And then whenever it gets filled up, that's when I know it's time to make bone broth. So we're gonna open up this bag and throw some of that in there. Now it will be kind of frozen, so you kind of have to shimmy it out in there. Oops, some came out, that's all right. And kind of break it up in there. I'm gonna be doing 2, if not 3 batches of this today because I have several bags of chicken bones and my bone broth bag is very, very full. So this is gonna be some very flavorful chicken broth. So now you're probably thinking, well, there's not a lot of room for the water. No worries. I promise it does make quite a bit of liquid and the vegetables cook down even more. So we're gonna fill this up. You'll see on the inside, I don't think you guys can see it very well, but on the inside of my pot here, it does have a max line. I do go a little bit higher because it's fine. We're gonna let it depressurize on its own, so it's not gonna be going everywhere when you hit the release button. So fill this up to the end here, and then we'll be ready for the next step. Okay, so I filled my pot almost to the top. I still left about an inch or so of room, so that way if it does start boiling, it's not gonna boil over or anything like that. Go ahead and put your insert carefully into your Instant Pot. All right, and then we wanna add a little bit of salt. So I don't like adding a ton of salt before I am making the bone broth. Sometimes I actually don't put any in at all. I'm gonna put probably about 1/8 of a cup of salt in here, just so that way it's pre-salted. So I'm just eyeballing it. You can absolutely measure it out. You can always salt more later. Just know that you can't take salt out. So make sure you're careful with that. Give it a quick little mix here. And we're ready to put the top on. So when you are looking at your top, again, for my beginners, there is this rubber ring on the inside. Make sure that is seated correctly. So what I mean by that is sometimes it will be out kind of like this. See how it has this ring right here? You want to make sure that that is down under there. So make sure that it's seated correctly. I always run my finger kind of down into that groove all the way around just to make sure, because if it is not, then it might not come to pressure very easily. So put the lid on top, scooch it over to the other side, and we'll be ready for the next step. Okay, we are ready to make some broth. So first things first, make sure the top is closed. So that's open. When it makes that sound, it's closed, at least for an Instant Pot. And I also want to show you the top here. So there is a sealing and a venting side. You want to make sure it is set to sealing. So don't make sure it's not on venting, make sure it's on sealing. All right, that's what's going to close everything up so that way it can actually come to pressure and pressurize. So make sure it's set to sealing, not venting. And then you're going to hit pressure cook. And there's the soup broth option, which is going to put it at 1.5 hours. That is plenty of time for your broth. So if you want something easy and you have a soup/broth option on your pot, click that, and then it's going to wait a few seconds and it'll say on. Now what it's going to do is it's going to come up to pressure, so it's going to take quite some time. I put the water I put in there wasn't even hot. You can absolutely put hot water in there. I just wasn't really thinking about it. But it's going to come to pressure and it's just going to cook for a good 1.5 hours. Then it's going to beep again. It'll shut off. Well, actually, it'll keep it warm, but then it will come down from its pressure. So it'll depressurize on its own, and we're not going to touch it until this little knob at the top, which is a little silver knob that's next to the sealing knob, falls. All right, so I'll show you when that happens, but I'll see you in a good, probably about 2 hours. Just for reference, if you make this at home without an Instant Pot on the stove, to get really good broth, it's on the stove for like 6 hours. So this definitely takes some time. It takes 2 hours, but it's not 6 hours. So there's your silver lining. So this is what our broth looks like. See that really deep color? That means it is some good broth. So we are going to drain this out. There's a few different ways that I do it. Sometimes I'll just put a strainer right on top of here and then scoop it out from there. You can put a strainer on top of a pitcher and strain it out that way and then pour it into your individual containers, however you want to do it. So let's do that. So one thing I want to mention right here is that you'll see that I leave a little bit of space on my cups here because as liquid freezes, it expands. So make sure you leave a little space on whatever container that you're using, whether it is a mason jar or these containers. I'm feeling that this is actually still pretty hot, so I am going to let this cool a little longer before I fill up the rest, but that's all there is to it, really. So you just put on the lids once they are nice and cooled down, and then throw them in your freezer. And then you have this beautiful, beautiful chicken broth to use, this bone broth. Throw it in recipes. If you want to make a super quick chicken noodle soup, you just throw a couple of these along with some shredded chicken, some veggies in a pot, let it all come to a quick boil, and then you have soup. So it's super, super easy. I love having chicken broth in my freezer at all times because by the time that I finish up these, I'm ready to make a whole nother batch. And I typically have my freezer bag that is full of vegetables again. So hope that clears everything up. Okay, it's several hours later because I can't stop watching The Crown. I let the bone broth cool off quite a bit so that way I could handle it a little bit easier and put them in these containers. So these are my freezer containers that I put my broth in. I took a strainer, put it on top of it, and then poured the stock right in there. So that way there were no little bits and pieces that went in. And look at this color. It is so dark and nice. if I dare to say, I think it's even darker than what you would get from a traditional store brand. I typically go with like a Kroger brand stock if I don't have any on hand. But now that I've learned to do this, I have never had to buy chicken stock. We don't eat a ton of beef, so we don't really have beef bones around. So if I ever need beef stock, I'll get that from the store. But typically those stock cartons are probably what, like $3? I'll have to check online to see how much they actually are. But if they're $3 each, I ended up with almost just shy of 7 quarts. So that's a pretty good deal. It's over $20 of savings, just guesstimating there. But that's basically taking that from virtually nothing. We took bones from a rotisserie chicken that we were going to have anyway because I needed shredded chicken for a recipe that I had. And then the scraps, the ends of carrots, the carrot peels, the ends of onions, the root of celery, it all works really, really well. And this stuff is so good. And what I like about it is that you can add as much salt as you want to it versus playing around with, the carton version. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to learn more about random things in the kitchen, if you're interested in learning more about different recipes in the kitchen and tips and tricks, go ahead and give me a follow, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.